Ghost Train has officially opened to the public at Thorpe Park Resort, so I headed down to the island like no other to experience this reimagined attraction for myself. Ready for its 12 o'clock opening. Ready for its 2 PM opening. Yes, unfortunately, technical issues delayed the grand opening, and some not particularly great communication from the park did lead to some confusion amongst guests. But eventually, 2 PM came and the wait was over, as guests flooded into Ghost Train's main queue line to wait a bit longer, or a lot longer as the case would be. In fact, a further hour and 20 minutes for me, with guests at the back of the line being advised to expect up to a 150-minute delay. Throughput is not this attraction's strong point. The exterior theming, however, is very nice, with aged posters showing attractions and signage from Thorpe Park's history. So onto Ghost Train itself and a brief history lesson. This attraction originally opened in 2016 as Derren Brown's Ghost Train. However, it wasn't that well received, something that Derren himself probably should have seen coming. It was later rebranded as Derren Brown's Ghost Train Rise of the Demon, storyline tweaked to be even scarier and still not an overwhelmingly positive reaction, with the virtual reality headsets being a bugbear for many guests. So here we are in 2023, Derren Brown has been given the boot, and Ghost Train returns in its third iteration, with an all-new storyline, the VR elements removed, and marketed as an immersive multi-sensory experience, which all sounds fantastic, except it isn't. I will be going into spoilers for Ghost Train now, so if you don't want to know what happens, then duck out now, and hopefully I'll see you in another video. Ghost Train is broken up into the same 6 sections as Derren Brown's Ghost Train was. You have the pre-show, the second pre-show, the first train journey, the walk-through bit, the second train journey, and then the gift shop fake-out at the end. What Thorpe Park have done with Ghost Train is to take those elements and build a new storyline around them, with actors, new theming set pieces and effects. The first pre-show is the waiting room, where you still have the 3D projection screen, only now Derren Brown has been replaced with the Station Master, who tells a story of a group of believers who had found an ancient crypt in Chapel Station and held a seance there believing they'd found the secret to eternal life. Instead, they awakened the dead. Pretty amateur mistake if you ask me. Guests are given the option to proceed or leave, except then the doors around you lock unrealistically loudly and you're guided through to the next room to stand and watch a TV for a bit. The screen cuts between news and weather clips of presenters increasingly acting more erratically and demonic, something which may have been effective for a couple of minutes, but this goes on for way too long. And I get that the pre-show rooms are designed to space out guests to aid capacity, but this section just dragged. Finally, we make our way onto the platform and board the train. This is still a stunning piece of theming and has always been the most impressive aspect of the attraction. Once seated, 2 actors playing train conductors join you and shout at each other from each end of the train. That's about it. From the off, they are acting erratically as if possessed, but also quite helpful. The story throughout is that the train won't stop at Chapel Station, except that of course it does, and guests are asked to deboard the train and are led into the indoor drop section of 13. Sorry, I mean the Crypt. This is quite nicely themed to a degree. There are skulls all over the walls and wraiths that do look a bit like leftover 13 theming. One of the train conductors gives a speech by a tombstone. The tombstone and wraith statues move a bit. A wraith walks out to scare guests at the front, and then we're all ushered out and back onto the train to escape. At this stage, I should point out there are clearly visible doors at the end of each carriage which sort of telegraphs what's coming next. More spiel from the train conductors, the lights flicker and go out. My eyes are immediately drawn to the secret door, where I see a figure walk through, the lights come back on, and I have a nun standing in front of me. A nun. If you followed the story of this attraction so far, the crypt, the seance, the wraith, the possessions, what you'll notice is a complete absence of fucking nuns. I can only assume someone figured that people like those sinister films and they've got a nun in them, so that'll work. But it's completely irrelevant to the story, and this is the grand finale of the attraction. What? Why? Also, there's some creepy writing on the wall that's revealed by UV lighting, and the obligatory musky old house smell pods. Finally, we're ushered off the train once more to the exit, and this has always been one of the cleverest parts of the attraction, as the gift shop isn't really a gift shop, it's the final scene. Guests are held up briefly by the shop attendant, lights flicker, everything in the shop rattles, and the now possessed attendant provides a final scare, followed by the station master revealing himself as the Angel of Death and cackling manically. You exit through the actual gift shop, which has a bunch of new merchandise, and that's Ghost Train. I found it to be a thoroughly underwhelming experience, with lots of standing and looking at a screen, followed by lots of sitting and watching actors. At no point did I feel particularly scared or on edge, but I also didn't feel that immersed in the experience either. Partly as everything was so over the top and theatric, when dialing that down a little would add a bit more realism, which for me is where the real fear comes from. I found that two sections in particular, the second pre-show and the first train journey, were quite boring and uneventful, and not in a slow burning tension way. Just not a lot was happening. The Crypt is quite well themed, even if it is startlingly reminiscent of 13, but there's no real sense of panic when the scary stuff happens. You just sort of watch it and then get moved on to the next bit. And then the nuns. This was so cringy to me and completely broke any sense of immersion that was left in the experience. Why are there nuns? The gift shop fake out is still pretty cool though, and I can imagine is really effective for guests who aren't expecting it. Finally, the throughput is awful, with groups of 40 or so going through every 10 to 15 minutes, so you'll always be in for a long wait to experience this attraction. A wait which personally I don't think is worth it. In fact, part of me wonders if Thorpe Park are just trolling us with this, in which case, fair play. The ghost train in all its forms has been a £20 million albatross around the neck of the resort since 2016. It was an expensive concept and ride system which has never really landed, which must be frustrating for the resort, but it's equally frustrating for a visitor like myself who would love to see Thorpe Park deliver a world-class dark ride experience and who would love to walk out of such an attraction beaming with positivity, desperate to ride it again. Sadly, Ghost Train is not it. However, I'm aware that plenty of people have really enjoyed Ghost Train, so if you loved it, comment below and let me know what I'm missing and what it was that you really liked about it. Please subscribe for more theme park content. I'm not always this negative, and I'll catch you next time.
The last train to part.